Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, as always, with my people. Guys, good morning.
Yes, it's a beautiful Thursday morning, Jeffrey, and you guys are looking good. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
I think it's one of the gifts you can give yourself to look good with whatever it is that you have. But welcome to Perfect Day Starter. I'm Kayode Okikulu. We're live for you in Lagos.
Lagos, Nigeria, tracking everything that is going on in the polity. I've been processing a lot of things in the last few days, and I'm just a bit concerned about the state of our democracy. You know, sometimes we just get carried away by the everyday news. Sometimes we just need to sit down and just process what is going on. I'm seeing what is playing out in Kogi State and the recall process, the level of mobilization for those 250 signature. I can guarantee you that if you do an election by INEC tomorrow, we're not going to get up to 150,000 to vote in the real election. But in the recall process, in a few days, they were able to get 250,000 plus signature to be able to recall a senator. That tells you there's a lot of undercurrent, whether they were bribed to do it, whether they were influenced to do it, whatever it is they used to do it, all those allegations. But it tells you the economy of mobilization. I like to refer that Kayode has that copyright. The economy of mobilization is a powerful one in our country. Sometimes it just makes a mockery of our democracy. It's within their rights to recall anybody they want to recall. But we're just talking about doing things willingly and for themselves. So those allegations, it's difficult to look away from them. But anyway, it is their call. And again, I look at what is playing out at the National Assembly is very concerning. At the judiciary is very concerning. Executive power is very concerning. And line in between all of this is the eroding confidence of the people in the system. But I want to plead with Nigerians not to give up on democracy. Perhaps some of the merchants of this destruction, if you will, actually want us to give up on democracy. We should not fall. It's a battle of attrition. There are still good people in the executive. There are still good people in the judiciary. There are still good people in the legislature. Maybe they are in a very small mind. They're in minority. For the sake of those ones, we can't afford to give up or continue to fight. The level of recklessness we see in the system. You remember when Muhammadu Buhari was president, they were shouting, your government is nepotistic, you're this. And then President Bola Tinubu came. Well, he took it to another level. It wasn't just Southwest, it's Lagos-centric. So we'll keep talking about these things. And let's be clear, when we find fault and criticize, people feel, oh, you hate the government. That is our job, to point to them where they're not doing well. It's our job. That's what we do. When they do well, we praise them. If you're not doing well, we don't praise you. We point to you because you are accountable to the people. The people, they're actually supreme, guys. I just need to let that out.
Well, Jeffrey, your concern for our democracy is valid. And I've also been thinking particularly about this Senator Natasha Akpotiuduaghan's sexual harassment allegation and, you know, events following after. The Kogi constituents are now beginning to push back, and they're holding meetings and saying she's our elected representative. The recall process must stop. Our people are being, you know, led on. They really do not know what they're doing as far as this recall process is concerned. But, you know, the reason I say Jeffrey's concern is valid is because, one, a Kogi High Court had initially restrained INEC from collecting petitions on that recall process, but then just days after, it went ahead to grant that the proceedings should continue. And if the Senate has adjourned, the Senate's public hearing on ethics and privileges had adjourned hearing sine die on that process, saying that the case is before the court. We know the exact cases that are before the court. So even if the court will now determine, you know, this allegation, the veracity of it or not, can the judiciary also be relied upon to deliver justice on this particular process, knowing full well, you know, that the systems must be made to work? Either it's the executive, the legislature, or the judiciary. So these concerns about the arms of government that make up our democracy, that should push forward the values that and principles that should indeed attest to the practicality and indeed, you know, a democracy that works and is representative of the people's commitment to those values. Then we really must be concerned for our democracy. I'm wondering how this will, you know, play out, particularly as Senator Natasha has also herself filed a case of disbarment for the presiding chairman over that privileges committee, citing misconduct when he was practicing outside the country. And people are saying, oh, she's getting into the game and playing by their rules. But what choice has she been left with? So much to reflect on this morning, Kaidi.
Yeah, and the battle is really multifaceted at this point, happening at different levels and different spheres. But I just want to ask Nigerians a very simple question, and I think we could talk about the arms of government, and we will talk about the arms of government, but I just want to ask Nigerians, because I consider you the fourth arm of government in that sense. Are you awake yet? Are we awake yet? And I'm not just saying in terms of time, because it's past 7. All of the things happening, has it stirred some sort of awakening in you? Because until Nigerians really wake up and begin to see these challenges as opportunities to fix those things, to set things right, to hold people accountable. Whether that person is your family member or not, the person is from your area, as far as the person is not doing what is right, either in the executive, the legislature, or even the judiciary following that due process, they must be called out. They must be held to account until Nigerians wake up. And that's why we're here on the show at this time, to ensure that Nigerians wake up. The people who own the power must wake up, because until then, we'll just be taken for a ride, because it will be expected that the people will move on, and wait for another 4 years, vote and move on, and wait for another 4 years, and before you know it, it's a century. But that's not all we're keeping tabs on this morning. Jeffrey, you saw something this morning.
Yes, on our way here, just before we bring you some of the headlines or highlights of what we're talking about, that way here. So in case you're coming, leaving Lagos, producer will put this up. In case you're leaving Lagos, that's the accident. I had to be a tactician to film this and drive somehow. So this is what's happening as you're leaving Lagos on Kara Bridge. So you can see the guys trying to direct people to just one lane. So this is outbound Lagos, just as you're about to exit the Kara Bridge, the popular Kara Bridge. So I was driving down, I was able to get this, just to alert you. So in case you are leaving Lagos, if there are alternative routes, I don't know whether there are, or you may have to just be quick to go out now so that you're not caught up in case you want to visit Bukola somewhere. She's at work, by the way. Anyway, but seriously, that's accident on Kara Bridge.
You talked about the concern that lives may have been lost in this accident.
I don't know about the lives. I don't know yet about, this is just what my camera was able to pick. I don't know whether anybody died and all of that. I was trying to race to work, so. That's basically so. Of
course, we'll keep our eyes on, keep tabs with the situation and bring updates. But what do we have for you this morning? We have quite a lot.
Yes, I'll get started with that Naira-For-Crude policy that is supposed to end this month. This March is supposed to be. Whether there's going to be review or renewal, we do not know. But that seems to be one of the biggest conversations right now in the oil and gas sector. What does this mean for the industry? But more importantly, what does this mean for you and I? Will it change anything? Should we be worried? Will there be an uptick? We'll find out right here on the program.
And yesterday, the Senate passed a bill mandating the compulsory registration of citizens with the aim of overhauling Nigeria's identity management system through the repeal and reenactment of the National Identity Management Commission Act. We'll be taking a look at what this means for our records systems and data accuracy.
But that's not all. We take you into a world that a lot of people may not be familiar with, and that's experiential marketing. What does that mean? Well, don't worry. We'll take a look at that, explain it to you, and then you begin to see how you can maybe leverage on all of the interesting things in that field and improve on your success, whether your business, or personal, or your organization. We'll do that.
And also, we'll be bringing you a conversation on how traditional institutions can help unite the country. We'll be talking with the Amayanabo of Opobo Kingdom, the popular Opobo Kingdom. We'll be talking with the Amayanabo on what he thinks can help in uniting the country from where he sits as a traditional ruler.
Besides that, we'll also be looking at your well-being while you're at work. Yes, the average 9 to 5 worker spends a large chunk of their adult lives in their office, like all environments. So some office spaces can be toxic and mentally draining. A human resource consultant and life coach will be here to give us insights on how to navigate toxic workplaces.
Something to look out for those who are probably heading to work now and thinking, not again. And finally, we go into the world of visual arts as we seek to understand hyper-realism. Zainab Magaji joins us to put a spotlight and bring this to reality for us on the show. But that's something to look out for. Those are the things to look out for on the show. So it's a packed show. In Bukola's words, it's a bumper package. But just before we get into some of the talking points, let's see what you've been saying about some of the biggest stories in Nigeria today. I want to start from some cheery news, but let's get the controversy out of the way, right? And that's the fact that INEC has notified Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduah of a recall move and confirmed the receipt of petitioners' contact details. Recall that INEC had said, well, the petitions, or at least the details, are not fully there, so it's not really, the INEC is not really ready to act on it until the petitioners fix that part. I think the email address, the contact details,
email,
and all of that.
Yeah.
But INEC has now said, well, we've gotten it. And it's quite interesting how proactive and how fast this thing was. If it's other things, you see how...
That's why it's quite suspect. That's why people are saying.
Yeah.
It's
You've gotten contact details of all 250,000
Well, no, I think it's of the petitioners.
No, the petitioners, the people, no. The people who filed that petition on behalf of the other people is their contact details, and not everybody.
Not everybody.
So the next step INEC has to take now is to make sure that every name on that list is actually within Kogi Central Senatorial District. So for context, in the last election, the total score for Senatorial District was about, let's just give it 110, not up to that, 54 plus 51. So I just increased it so that in case of the other people, so 110 in the real election. And that took about a year to get to that number, campaigns and all of that. And then in the recall process, in just 1 or 2 weeks, they were able to get 250 voluntarily saying we want her back. Wonderful.
But you explained the process days earlier, Jeffrey. You said INEC still has to carry out a referendum.
Yes. No, INEC will now, they will write to Natasha Akpoti, say you will be, people are trying to recall your people. Your people are trying to recall you, and then they'll write to the Senate to notify them as well. Then INEC will now do the leg work. The real work is identifying that everybody is from that constituent. And now if they are satisfied, if they cross that hurdle, which is the most difficult hurdle, because they will check the biometrics with beavers and all of that. They cross that hurdle, then it's game time. It's now simple majority.
There you go.
Simple majority. If simple majority says no, yes, she's out. If they say no, that's the end of the process.
Well, Ebitu, the first user, says that this isn't necessary. They're doing too much. Who now? Is it INEC or the people or the petitioners? The energy spent on this recall could be better used to demand real governance and accountability. As I said earlier on, the people, the people, the people.
And of course, Senator Akpoti-Oduah herself has reacted, saying that INEC ought to have dismissed the petition outright, because you're guiding them, leading them on. You can't be an invigilator in an exam. They had initially brought the petition without the signal, the contact details, and you told them what to do, and then they went and did it. Well, let's take more of what you're saying about
the people. The people are supreme. To be very fair, it's the people that voted her. So if that is not such a big deal, you understand? So INEC is saying, before you say we didn't follow your petition, this is why we didn't follow your petition. So do the right thing first. So I don't, anyway.
Yaya Baaba says history will remember the good. History will remember the good people of Kogi Central for this bravery. They are the heroes of democracy in Nigeria.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, that should be okay. This is Manuel_Uncle says a lot of irrelevant. No Nigerian is irrelevant, please. People are in support of this motion, but forgetting the consequence, and as well as this woman in question is not poor, neither is she suffering, but can say of yourself supporting this motion. Maybe what can you say of yourself supporting this motion? We are the ones suffering. She and her family are made for life. That's an angle, anyway.
There you go.
But please, no Nigerian is irrelevant, please. well relevant. Whether they are doing it right or wrong, Nigeria, the Senate, the Constitution protects their right to do whatever it is they want to do.
The people, the people. But let's talk about another set of people who are rejoicing right now. You may have seen screenshots of alerts from core members.
We were
online. Yeah. So core members have started receiving the new monthly allowance of 77,000 Naira. We understand the NYSC is now paying that to core members effective this month. So I saw someone's alert. Couldn't verify it, but of course we know from the end of the NYSC they've started paying and promised to pay arrears. So Maiwa.
God is good to Maiwa.
Congratulations. Chinyele is...
Why are you guys always on his case?
It's our guy.
Chinyele has the first one. Says, let them send their offering to Ray. That's remember the core member who did that video, who said that, well, for her, the president has been terrible at his job, and she just went on and on about how the economy is biting hard. So that's the person. Set aside that, why did it take so long to do the needful? Well, good question.
To pay Ray royalty. But I like, this is how government should respond to critics. It's as simple as saying, the girl is saying, life is hard, I'm spending too much. Collect. It's not that hard now. Okay, Sabi CFC says, yes, 77K allowance is nice, but let's be honest, Nigeria still owes coppers a proper job market offers after service.
In my opinion?
In my opinion, oh boy, I need to catch up.
Social media.
I almost said emo. This 77K doesn't change anything. At least now, say thank you when you can say small thank you. They have tried.
Well, in the light of the circumstances, I can understand when thank you can be difficult. Mark SH is the next user this morning who says they should all thank Rai. Rai is in the news this morning. She has just called on the government and the government listened. So well, maybe that's one of the reasons that thank you can be difficult. You know, when you're supposed to do the job when it matters the most, and it comes, you know, belatedly, when so many other things have been overtaken by events, and you wonder where the feeling of gratitude should come in.
Yeah, but let's just say thank you, then we complain again. Because anyway, I want to look at it, 77K arrears has come. So use that one, spend 24 hours, and then resume to remind the government of how they are not doing well.
Don't worry, we'll tell you what Maiwa has to say about this. But let's go over to the dailies and see how the dailies reflect some of the big stories in the nation. Starting off with this Nigeria, because we're talking Nigeria, right? And this Nigeria has, as its big story, immunity. And this is not health immunity, no. You'll understand why. You see, reps want VP governors stripped of privilege. Bill scales second reading. Section 308 to give qualified privileges only to president. And qualified privileges there in context. You might want to find out what all of that means right there. But you see, again, Senate in rowdy session rejects immortalization of WOSU. Of course, that's about June 12th. Something about procedure, the rules and stuff. But that's the front page of this Nigeria for you this morning.
Okay, so let's go to the blueprints. Constitution review, rep poised to strip VP governors, deputies of immunity. So, for context, for those who are not familiar, there's an amendment going on in the National Assembly. The House is actually leading the path. So, about 40 or so, a couple of amendments to the Constitution, a lot of them. One of which is they want to give, what was that term they use again? Qualified privileges. To the president and all of that. You know, governor's deputy and president and vice, they have immunity. That means they cannot be prosecuted until they leave office. So those are one of the highlights. But there are so many other things. So many other things. I'm sure by the coming week we'll be able to highlight some of these things. There's a lot that state police, there's issue around the electoral system. Right now, one of the things I like about these guys is the fact that they're looking at a situation where before anybody sworn in would have been done with all these court cases. All of it, you know. And then before, if you're running for any public office now in Nigeria with this amendment, you must resign. So if this had been before now, Senator Godswill Akpabio, Senator Ahmad Lawan wouldn't have been in the Senate. There, so you must resign before you run for any office. And then, of course, before you say, I have defected, or you defected on TV, or you defected in your house, you will resign from the party. So there's so many, there are good ones, and they are even talking about the issue of having a assembly, like a House of Assembly for Abuja, which is not a state, it's a territory. That's why it's called the FCT. So there are so many, but all of this will pass through the National Assembly, I think get through public hearing, and then they will go through all of the state houses of assembly, and some I already know will not go anywhere. I can tell you for free.
And also on that
list
that gets me excited, which I believe should help to decongest, the courts, is that one that seeks to, make the litigation ceiling for election matters to stop at the Court of Appeal.
Yes, that's for governors. Only president will get to the Supreme Court. And then they also want to, the one I may be worried about is the one that has to do with increasing the number of Supreme Court justices. I think according to what it is now, is 21. Yeah. If they increase it, because when you talk about, if it's in America, for instance, they have only 9 judges in a population of over 300 million. The reason is that so that you have the best of the brightest of them all. When you overpopulate this place, we have, and then the one that may be controversial is that they want INEC now to be conducting local government elections. There's going to be...
On the flip side, they also want, and that's why you have 2. There's also meant to be another...
Yes, there will be another body to conduct that local government.
So it's 2.
No, the governors are not going to allow that. They will tell the assembly members, kill it, kill it. Perhaps I'm just joking.
Well, let's head over to the next paper this morning, and that would be The Guardian. Take a look at the big story. So it's quite instructive. What it's telling us is that instead of, all these back and forth over sexual harassment allegations, there are more important issues. There are bigger fish to fry. National automotive policy in limbo. 136 billion naira investment stuck, and there you see the picture telling the story, and right at the bottom there are details that we can chew on this morning. 58 assemblies spent $756 million in 5 years of NAIDP. Of the 58 firms, 20 closed operations in 2024. Only 6 are actively assembling vehicles, but with extremely low capacity. So what are the policies that should be put in place, the framework that should encourage local assembling of automotive equipment in the country? Is the National Assembly reflecting on this? We're busy with other matters that some would consider not necessarily moving the economy forward. But this is an important story to reflect on, especially in the light of the circumstances of what's happening in the economy. The increase in port charges, how much are you buying a vehicle today? I doubt that you can purchase a brand new vehicle. Nigerians are purchasing even Nigerian use at breakneck costs. So a very important story there, and you can find details this morning on the inside pages of the Guardian newspaper.
I have an extreme position. Whatever major thing we're not able to be self-sufficient in, let's stick with what we have. So if we're not able to produce cars, let's stick with horses, donkeys. Because until we are able to, I know it's very extreme, but I'm just trying to say we need to begin to think that way. Once you see something, you're like, can we be self-sufficient in this? Because we're spending, do you know how much people spend, convert to dollars just to import fairly used vehicles that have been maybe accident,
I'm afraid that that's only going to stay in the imagination where it came from.
Don't worry, we're going to bring, we're going to have a proper conversation on this.
They have to lead with that. Even the government is not using local vehicles here. Yeah. And yet, when you want to import a vehicle, the kind of amount is almost the same price you used to buy the vehicle that you used to clear. And then we're declaring a huge amount as revenue and killing the economy at the expense of the people. So, guys, what do we have next?
Well, we're actually still talking about how to power the vehicles and other machines. So we'll take a quick break now. When we return, the crude for oil, Naira-For-Crude, rather. What is going to happen to the price of petrol amidst all of this back and forth? That's where we're starting off. And
Welcome back. So let's talk about this issue around Naira-For-Crude. So the government, the federal government, I should say, had a policy to sell crude oil to local refineries in Naira. It's part of the, I think, Section 109 of the PIA that allows that kind of transaction. If you want to do dollar, if you want to do Naira, it's allowed within the law. So there was a timeline of about 6 months. We understand it's ending in March. There was a lot of uproar to the effect that this may cause an uptick in prices of petroleum products, and there were that back and forth within the subcommittee in charge of it, as well as the stakeholders. But the best way to find out exactly what the status is at the moment is to speak with the people who are players in that space. We've been joined by the national president of PETROAN, that's Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. Dr. Gillis-Harry, thank you so much for coming on the program. Zahari, if you can unmute your device so that we can hear you. We couldn't hear what you said.
Are we good to go?
Yes, fantastic. Yes, we can hear you now. So maybe you help us understand why this is such a big deal, if indeed it's going to end and it will be reviewed. The reason is simple. From my understanding and where I sit, I feel that the simple idea about Naira-For-Crude is not necessarily the fact that the prices will change. It's the fact that you are paying for crude in Naira with the dollar equivalent, if that is correct. So it's just the currency of transaction to reduce the FX pressure we feel in terms of these purchases. So if this ends, why should it impact the price of crude oil? Is it because of how it will impact FX, the price of PMS products? Just help us break it down, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and good morning, Nigeria. This policy is a very welcome one, I believe, for Nigeria and Nigerians. PETROAN has been in the forefront of advocating for the Naira-For-Crude. We are very much conversant with the fact that the PIA allows for you to do transactions in different currencies. And you are right when you say the main objective of even our own understanding was that once crude oil is sold in Nigerian Naira, it will release the pressure on our forex, and we can easily, build up again the foreign reserves that is needed for other critical developmental investments. But this policy, in the first instance, was put together just for 6 months pilot. And last a couple of weeks ago, PETROAN confronted authorities on the issue when we heard it from very surreptitious publications, and we explained that the policy will come to an end the first instance on the 31st of March, and that this is going to take the period in which reviews and searches on how the whole thing has worked and how it's impacted the country should be done. And we went on with that fact that hopefully this policy will be reviewed and it will be reinstated after the first tenure has elapsed. But up till now, to my knowledge, meetings have been held consistently on the issue, and we've not heard any very clear policy that has come out of it.
I know the end game for a lot of people is know what will happen to the price of petrol should this fall through, because it's increasingly looking like it might. Maybe there might be extension for some time, but we don't know for how long, even if that would happen. But we're trying to see what will be the best option for both parties now, and ultimately for Nigerians. So with the crude for Naira deal, Nigeria sells crude to Dangote for Naira, or in Naira, obviously. But of late, we've heard that Dangote is importing crude to refine. So some have said if Dangote is able to get dollars to import, isn't it able to also pay Nigeria in Naira, since Nigeria is looking for that much needed dollars for the external reserve to fund the budget, basically to buffer itself up when it comes to revenue. So what is the best model that will really work for both parties? Some have said rather than selling crude, Nigerian government can say, you know what, we'll give you the crude refined for us, and that's, I'm talking about the NNPCL now. We'll give you crude refined for us, then give us back the petrol. We'll pay you for refining, right? Some have said, well, ultimately, whatever the case is, just make sure that the price of petrol comes down. So if you're able to merge all the interests of all the parties here and see what works for everyone, what will they be for you, Mr. Gidisari?
Well, for me, my basic concern would be the well-being of Nigerians. It's clear that petrol has become a very reliable and strong source of energy security for our operations, for our businesses, for our health, for our daily living. And it will be a difficult thing for me personally to see that Nigerians will, for any reason, suffer the death of unavailability of petroleum products, especially PMS. So you got it right when you suggested a mix of processes that could work. Can Dangote refinery refine for an NPC? Can they refine for Nigerians? It's one idea, but that is a 650,000 barrels per day refinery, and can really take our production cap as of today. It's about 2.01 million or so. So that takes quite a chunk of over almost 30% of our daily production. So, and of course, we have commitments for sales. We have forward sales already made. We are reading the size of debt that is already accrued based on the forward sales. So I think that the best thing for the Nigerians to do and the policymakers would be to look at a mix of all of that, where crude is produced in Nigeria strictly for domestic production. That would be one, and that should not be in the OPEC quota. I don't see why Nigeria cannot take a decision on how to think out of the box and make that work. The other one, like you suggested, is, look, instead of carrying our crude oil to refine for us from any other country, let us do that crude oil swap production for refined product in Nigeria. And of course, don't forget that the Nigeria policy for Naira-For-Crude was not only for one refinery, it was both for the NNPC refineries, Ezekiel refinery, Niger Delta, Walter Smith, Edo refinery, and all the refineries that are there. So it wasn't just only for one refinery. So I think a mix of different options can be able to save Nigerians. I personally don't want to hear that there is scarcity again in Nigeria. With all these numbers of refineries working, and of course, the import opportunity should also be explored, so that we have comparison of prices in different areas, and ensure that at all times we have product to keep our stations wet and serve Nigerians more efficiently.
So if that is the goal, I believe that is perhaps the reason that some economic watchers are saying that why can't the policy be sustained? Why have the meetings been unfruitful so far? And as a result, they're attributing the inability to renew this template to what seems to be the price war between Dangote Refinery and the NNPCL. In the last couple of months, we've experienced some form of stability, less dependence on foreign exchange as a result of this policy. So are you getting that sense also as a stakeholder in the industry that the refusal to renew this policy is because it's unfavorable to the NNPCL, and in the last couple of weeks, and in fact maybe 1 or 2 months, Dangote Refinery has been reducing the pump price of petrol?
Well, I will not say that there is any adverse effect on NNPC. NNPC is the producer of the crude oil that is needed, and all that is required is for the upstream arm of the Ministry of Petroleum to look at how to make productions much more ensure that there's security in the Niger Delta and elsewhere where oil is being produced, even in the Bauchi basins and all of those areas. So we can have a very, good pool of crude oil for Nigeria's, use. What I will think is that the policy has not been stopped, and it hasn't. There's no indication that it's going to stop, in my opinion, because we took our complaint to the highest quarters in the industry, and we were very well informed as to the process that is going to take place.
But Mr.
So
Gilisari,
today is still
Mr. Gilisari,
so many days away from the 31st.
Pardon me, Mr. Gilisari, if I may come in there. If you say there is no indication that it will stop, some marketers have begun to, top the pump price of petrol by at least 10 naira. I wonder if you have observed that, but I have observed that. So is it an indication that they're getting a sense that the pump price of petrol will go up as a result of the delay in the renewal of this Naira-For-Crude framework?
Well, I don't think that the price of PMS will just jump up just on the speculation of that. The thing is, availability will at all times decide what price that the storage facility owners, the depot marketers will sell to us as retail outlet owners. So if availability has now dwindled to the point where they want to increase prices, that will not be because there is a singular decision of stopping the Naira-For-Crude policy. But rather what I will advise, and this is what we have told our members, first we have told our members not to buy in panic, and we want to be sure that nobody is shortchanging us, because we are the last mile in the industry, and it's a very difficult thing to start explaining to commuters and our patrons. We bought product just 3 hours ago that we have changed price to 10 naira more. It's been a tough walk for us, but we have to still keep selling so that we don't grind the wheel of the growth of the economy down. So I don't think it's that policy issue that's there. It's availability of petroleum products.
All right, Mr. Gilisari. As we wind down, I think there's a bigger problem that I would like you to speak to, and maybe speak to it with facts as well. Dangote refinery has a capacity for 650,000 barrels per day. So if all the refineries in Nigeria are working, Warri, the NNPCL and the other ones, maybe we'll come to about maybe 1-point-something million barrels per day of capacity to refine crude. And that's going to be a lot. So we can actually start exporting petroleum products in that sense. But I think what we are dealing with is feedstock again, and which is why Dangote has to buy some of his feedstock from outside Nigeria. So from what you know, how much of forward sales have we committed our country to? How long are we going to be on this? And is NNPC still doing these forward sales?
Well, I'm not aware of what size of forward sales that have been made with empirical evidence. But from the reports and the data that I've gathered, we're about 21-point-something billion down. So that is a lot of money, and nobody knows how long that will be. It will take to defray that amount. But here is what we have been suggesting from PETROAN to the government and to NNPC and to everybody. Look, what stops us from working out, a policy whereby specific fields are, producing strictly for domestic use. And we should be able to discuss this outside of the OPEC basket. So this, for me, is the only solution, and we have been talking about it for a long time. And I hope that the policymakers are listening to us, the grassroots, players in this industry, that it will be able to help. Because we have refineries now, and more investments are coming in the refinery capacity area. So why don't we make Nigeria the hub of export for refinery? That will be a much, much more productive and beneficial economic gain for us.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Okay, I think it's a good idea, brilliant one, and I'm sure that your people are listening, and we just have to do what we can. It's just that we sold our future so much that we hope they are not, NNPCL is not selling or continue to sell. But they hardly come out to talk, so they leave room for a lot of speculation, unfortunately. Rather than writing pressers, we expect them to come and defend themselves. But thank you, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, the national president of PETROAN. Thank you for always coming through whenever we call on you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much for having us.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the next conversation. Join us again.